This is Latanya Reese Miles, aka LT, and I am back with more behind the scenes Easter eggs, little nuggets about my memoir, Smart Girl. Today, I want to talk to you about the chapter Inches. It's a prologue, actually, and it's only a couple pages, actually. So here's the secret. That chapter tells you the whole story about the book. You could just read that one chapter and get a good sense of what Smart Girl is all about, and by extension, about what's common in a first generation narrative. All right, let me back up and explain just a little bit. So here's a backstory. I actually wrote that chapter when I was nearly like three-fourths of the way done with the book. But what ended up happening is that I had this really visceral memory of my fear of escalators that I had when I was a kid. It was almost a severe phobia that I had. And it just started to come back to me. And I thought, wow, this would be really important and also tells you more about the character of T, my younger self. And so I wanted to tell the story of this fear of escalators from the perspective of a kid. So what did it feel like? What did I think was going to happen when I got on this escalator? And notice that I never ever used the word escalator, and that is by design. And I know some people are like, but it could mean anything. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Remember, I said English major, right? So all that to say is that it becomes a metaphor. So make sure when you're reading that chapter to pay attention to all these little nuances, like the fact that my boy cousins, were on a different path than I was, right? Or the fact that I'm afraid to figure out where to place my foot. In some ways, the escalator itself doesn't really matter. Some people have said, wow, this sounds like you're about to get on a ski lift. It sounds like you're about to fall off of a cliff. Again, that's by design too. So for many of us, we have these moments where we're trying to figure out what is our next step, and we become really nervous about um, is this thing going to work out? If I apply for this school, am I going to get in or am I not going to get in? If I apply for this job, what's going to happen to me? Should I quit my job? So that's why I felt like it was important to include this part of the narrative. One thing I do want to point out as well is the support that I had. So in this case, I talk about how I was afraid to take that step on the escalator, and it was my aunties who were encouraging me, and one of them who held my hand. So remember, think in terms of metaphor and symbolism. This is going to reoccur over and over again in this narrative as it reoccurred in my life, that there were these key figures, often women, often Black women, who were there to hold my hand as I was taking a next step. The other thing I want to say about this particular chapter, again, it's called Inches, is there's some language there that's going to come back much, much later in the story. Some words that I use, some phrases that I use in Inches is going to come back later. Like, oof, oof, right? So pay attention to that. All right. Again, hope you are enjoying Smart Girl. And if you pick up on some themes that I don't mention, be sure to say them. I also hope that you think about what are some of the escalator moments in your life. What are some steps you may be afraid of taking right now because you're worried that they won't turn into full steps. Like I said, sometimes the only way forward is to jump. All right, take care.